Welcome to Vienna. Here we are at ICC Austria's very famous Trade Finance Week. I'm Depesh Patel, editor at Trade Finance Global. I'm delighted to be joined by Ledia Dervishaj from Scotiabank. Welcome to Trade Finance Talks TV.
Thank you for having me. Thanks a lot. Nice to meet you.
You too. So, quick introduction. Who are you, where are you from, and what do you do?
Well, I am originated from Albania, been in trade finance for more than 20 years now. And last two with Scotiabank as a standby assistant manager, part of the team being helped and helping the others for the business to go on.
Thank you very much. So let's start with a helicopter view and talk about SWIFT. What are SWIFT messaging types and how are they used?
Well, you know that SWIFT stands for a much longer word, and the categories that they have published for financial institution interactions starts from 1 to 9, and the most used for us is the 7 category, is more specifically the 760 messages, which are used in the international trade finance for issuance of standby letters of credit and bank guarantees. Those are authenticated messages which serve as a way of communication and issuing of payment obligations, promises of payment obligations towards the parties which are part of the transactions.
So how are SWIFT MT760 messages actually used and how does that enable banks to communicate to each other and also for trade finance transactions under those instruments you mentioned to actually happen?
Yeah, so they're used in our daily job actually to issue standby letters of credit or letters of guarantees for beneficiaries that are outside our bank that uses other banks or outside the country that they have contracts and relationship with other parties which are not part of the bank. Mm-hmm. So they are authenticated messages and those are the alpha and the beta of our daily job.
Yeah, okay. Now, earlier today, you talked us through the changes that the MT760 rules have undergone. Well, first of all, what was wrong with them in the first place and why did they change?
Well, not that it was wrong, but the changes came as a necessity of 10 years of experience from all parties, especially the specialists in the field, the trade finance colleagues. The SWIFT gathered their opinions, gathered their suggestions, and it came up with the new changes once the old SWIFTs had all the transaction in one field, so you had to go through a lot of word reading. Now everything is separated, so each structure of transaction has its own structure of message, which to be honest makes our life very easy in terms of checking, in terms of authentication, in terms of fraudulent messages. We're able to notice much better anything that goes wrong to the transaction. In terms of compliance and sanctions that are being in place, so it enhanced and improved our processes very much.
Particularly in light of what's going on in the world right now and
Absolutely.
The need to really be on top of anti-money laundering, know your customer sanctions,
exactly,
etc., etc. Mandatory fields was a piece that came up, and I'm aware that the number of mandatory fields has increased.
That one has changed. Now we have 13 mandatory fields as opposed to 5 that we had before. It means that these are fields that are necessary for a SWIFT message MT760 to go through the system. If one of them is missing, the message won't go through. So it's like a red flag per se. Depending on the structures for sure, but in whole now we have 13 mandatory fields as I told you before, opposed to 5 ones that we had, which makes it much more easier to structure the transaction.
And I'm sure in your field of say standby letters of credit, for example, there are other SWIFT messaging types that we may well see changes coming through the horizon? What is coming in November, or expected to come in November?
I think Swift is working for the 798 proprietary message to change it, but that will affect mostly the customers because it's a message that is used mostly by the customers, by the clients that ask the bank for the issuance of LCs, certain LCs. But we just had another improvement of 761 and 769, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Which was released recently in March 2023. Basically, what Swift is doing is gathering all the opinions they are again gathering opinions from all banks to see what and evaluate what it's worthy to change or not in the daily process, so that the transaction structure and process can be improved, and especially the timings and limit the errors that are done.
And I think especially in a world of rich and structured data,
Absolutely.
Adding in more fields with constricted data entry points are probably quite important for the bigger aim of digitalizing trade.
Absolutely, I think preparing the world even for that. So
absolutely. Ledia, thank you very much for joining me on Trade Finance Talks TV. And great to be in Austria.
Thank you very much for having me, and hope to see you again. I'm a big fan, so I'll be following you continuously.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.